Hey guys, this is Grusky. Adopt has been doing more of these training streams. This time we did one on legendary upgrades. We went over what we think these upgrades will be. None of us have actually played them, so these are all speculation based off of looking at the benefits and drawbacks of the upgrades. These are just kind of our opinions on what we think will work, and ones that might not be good for normal play that you should maybe pass up, which ones might be good for randoms but not for competitive or vice versa, and certain playstyles that could be worked in with some of the modules that maybe don't seem like they're really a benefit. And we're going to keep doing more of these streams like this. I think they're really benefit. People seem to really like them. So I just asked if anybody can throw in any feedback, recommended topics, different ways we could do the stream that might help, help us reach more people or maybe get our point across better. I'd love to hear it. So I hope you guys enjoy this video, and please let me know if you like it, and so we can keep doing more of these. We'll just get started here. We are going to talk about what we think of the legendary upgrades for the ships, and obviously
we're going to speculate.
This is all speculation based off of just some experience we have in competitive and random battles. We're just gonna go and whether we kind of think it's a good idea or not a good idea. Obviously, no matter what, even if we say this upgrade is really bad, there's always that one person who does really well with that upgrade and the exception to the rule, basically. But generally, it doesn't work for everybody.
Yeah.
So first on the list, I just got the web page up talking about the modules from Wargaming, and the first one is Republique. Actually, Kozaro's not around. I was hoping to actually get him on since he's a pretty big Republique player. But overall, I know he said he's going for it. So the upgrade is minus 18% to battery loading time, or main battery loading time. But you have increased turret traverse and decreased range. So there's you have faster rate of fire, but shorter range and slower turret traverse. Overall, I think this one, I know Kozaro said he's looking forward to it. Overall, I think this one's pretty good. You'll feel the range reduction.
It looks like we have reload gets brought down to 19 seconds, and range goes from 26 to 19.
Yep.
Yeah, that seems pretty devastating 20. Range, though. Like, you lose over 6 kilometers of range.
I mean, that is, but I guess that comes down again to, so much of this is going to be preference. I don't tend to, even in Yamato, I don't tend to engage targets longer than 20k unless I have to.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
I think most engagement ranges are going to be under 20 kilometers, so if I had it, I think I'd use it.
Yeah,
but now I can't max range snipe anymore. How am I gonna do anything?
Kozaro can't max range snipe.
Well,
now.
We're getting there with the new Yamato upgrade. You could probably max range snipe all you want.
So yeah, this I think is going to be worth it. There's, like you said, trade-offs in Republique because the turret layout, one turret on each side, you're going to have to give a decent angle. So there's going to be, some more potential to take damage. But if you're smart about your positioning, it shouldn't be a big problem. I guess to kind of go over competitive, it's not really clear yet. Republique doesn't do too well when it's closed in, especially with when it's focused by cruisers. It's 32mm armor is pretty susceptible to HE spam, so that'd have to be a pretty aggressive Republique. And I know at least the Republiques I've seen in clan battles that were successful, they're more or less sitting towards the back. And
they're just sniping Hiddenburgs and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And you touched on it with the traverse speed of the main guns. It's going to struggle with the 50% firepower in the back, 50% in the rear. You're going to struggle to get those turrets on target quicker, and it's probably going to lead to newer players going broadside longer to keep their guns on target.
Just to mention on the turret traverse, that's the same turret traverse you get on the DPM mod, so it's not actually going to change anything from what you'd usually be running.
Oh, really?
It's minus 12. It's minus 12, minus 13 for the DPM. I'm pretty sure.
So it's barely different. That's a good point.
You're going to go a little bit slower.
Yeah.
Yeah, and basically all you're getting is 6% reload in exchange for 24% less range.
Yeah, which most people I know run the reload module anyway, so It's actually the real big I don't know, downside of this is the range. So
Yeah.
I guess there's not much else to really say about that one. It seems pretty good. I guess it just depends on your play style.
This next one's my personal favorite.
Next is the Kurfürst.
Yeah, that one's a pretty similar vein. You gain main battery and secondary battery loading speed, but you give up range as well. And actually, it says like you give up turret traverse, but as most people, unless you're going for a full secondary build, also go for the reload module. So this is actually less of a reduction to your turret traversing speed.
I'm going to go ahead and say that I've only had fun playing my GK as a secondary GK. Like, I love it. I love to brawl with my GK. And so an upgrade that basically encourages me to brawl and bringing down my, I guess the nerf to the main battery range is not that big a deal, but
Wargaming is definitely pushing the more brawling GK with this. Like, it's pretty good on the reload, and I mean the reload for the secondaries isn't as good as the actual secondary module, but I mean main battery is still where most of your damage comes from anyway. So
right, I like this one because you can buff both your main battery and your secondary without having to pick between the two of them.
Yeah, and you
because I think I do take secondary battery right now on my GK, and then this allows me to not have to pick one or the other. I get a little bit of both.
Yeah, so this seems like a good choice too, because it's you're choosing between either the secondary module, which again is mostly just there for fun, and it's not as competitive, and depending on who you ask, that's not how you GK, but as you said, it's just more of like a fun thing. Otherwise, the other one is the main battery reload reduction, and you actually have even less of a turret traverse. The real negative is the range. I think it's
that's the only negative.
Minus 12 for turret traverse speed, so this one's minus 17, and the normal
minus 7.
Okay. So, and I want to say like the normal module is minus 12% to reloading time.
I think it's minus 13, isn't it?
So let me look it up right now.
Oh no, sorry, you're right. It's minus 12.
Okay. So yeah, that's I don't know, it seems like a pretty no-brainer. And I guess competitive. I guess if you are gonna run a GK, if you run a GK, at least here in the NA server, it's not really I don't know, a common chip to use. Yeah. But it will actually, I think it would be good for it, because if you are going to use GK, you're going to be using it to push and tank damage and be aggressive, so that range shouldn't be a huge loss, and having better reload time in your guns is going to be worth it. So I think overall that's a good choice for competitive.
Yeah, it might not matter much for what a competitive GK does in general, but
yeah, well, because that's the other thing too about the range is the dispersion on the guns is already not great. So a reduction in range isn't really like a huge deal. You should generally be close up in the ship anyways. If you're sniping at max range, you're not going to hit a whole lot.
Should we move on to Yamato?
Yep, Yamato. This one, I guess it comes down to you have you lose out on some main battery reloading module. Which is, I believe, the go-to standard. I don't actually have Yamato, but that's what I would pick if I had a Yamato.
That one gives you, so the standard main battery modification, that's 12% decrease to your loading time with a 13% decrease to your traverse speed. So in this case, it's worse traverse speed than you would with that reload module. You get 19%. It's worse loading time as well. It's about halved. It's 6%. But you get that 7% to your maximum dispersion, and that's gonna really. Yamato's dispersion's already not that bad, and so you add in that little accuracy buff, and I think that's gonna be kind of deadly.
Yeah, if you can make more of your shells hit, then the loss on the little bit of reloading time is worth it.
I don't know what the default dispersion for the Yamato is. I'm gonna Google it while you guys talk.
Yeah, I guess to then bring up on, if that is good for competitive, I think it would be, especially with, the clan battles or even ranked. You're generally going to be a little bit far off. You don't want to be the only thing the enemy team can shoot at, but you also want to be able to sort of tank damage. But clan battles tends to be really passive, fighting at a distance. So the extra, the increased decreased dispersion is, I think a good idea.
Because the key in clan battles is to like get that devastating strike and quickly take out the cruisers, and the reduced dispersion is just going to make that happen more often. So I think that's a pretty easy choice there.
Yeah, I think in clan battles, if you're in secondary range of the Yamato, you've probably done something wrong, from both the team that doesn't have the Yamato and the team that does have the Yamato. You've probably done something wrong. So I think increasing its ability to take that snipe across the map, which has saved us in several clan battles, that's definitely worth it, I think.
Especially if the Yamato is not spotted and has a good angle and can just fire like that one salvo before the enemy team even knows where your battleship is, all the more deadly. I think it's a good choice.
All right.
So next, Montana. This one, I say so far all of them we've been pretty positive about. This one, I'm just going to say I won't take it. It doesn't really, seem really worth it to me to give up concealment for, slightly better fire extinguishing time and flooding recovery time. I guess.
So the website says this was intended to give Montana additional maneuverability as well as some, basically reducing floods and fires. I don't think the Montana needed a maneuverability buff. I think you're going to take more floods and fires because you're going to be spotted more often.
Yeah, exactly. I know this one just doesn't seem worth the trade.
Yeah. When I was looking at it, I basically said that the steering gear's repair time is totally useless on battleships. The only times you lose your steering is when you eat a torpedo, and then you DCP it all automatically.
And if you don't, you're probably dead anyway.
Yeah, and then flooding recovery time, minus 30%. Even if you stack that with BOS and the module, you're still looking at 25-30% of your flooding time. And if you eat 25 or 30% of a flood, that's still a massive chunk of damage. So I don't think anyone's going to care about having that reduced flooding. Yeah, so really the only things that are useful here are the minus 30% rudder shift and the minus 15% fire extinguishing. I think the fire extinguishing is going to be more or less offset because you're going to be spotted more. And the rudder shift isn't as important on battleships.
Yeah. One of Montana's coup de grace against other ships is the fact that you can fire from cruiser detection range all 12 guns and just basically surprise something, either a battleship, destroyer, or cruiser, whatever. And you get off that massive salvo, you get all that damage, then you just finish them off. I think if you go up to 14.9 kilometer detection range and you start getting out spotted by, I think that's every tier 10 cruiser. If they're running concealment module, it can be under 14.9.
What's the GK's max detection?
Base.
Let me check mine. Its maximum detection is it's minimum detection.
Yeah,
is 13.6 with concealment.
What was it?
13.6 with concealment mod captain.
So now Montana would have worst in class concealment for everything.
Yeah, that would be bad.
Yeah,
I mean, people often talk about how overpowered Montana's concealment is, and it's very good, but it's pretty much straight in the middle of the pack for tier 10 battleships, really.
Unless there's a meta shift where concealment is not the king that it is right now, I think if you're going to give up concealment, your benefit has to be huge, and the benefit here is not good enough.
Yeah.
I think if it was like a DPM increase, like they decreased its loading time, because taking the loading module on American battleships has never really been possible.
Yeah.
I think if this reduced the reload time,
being as it is.
Yeah, I think the Montana with the increased DPM and increased detection, that would be interesting. That would be a choice between sneaky and firing and doing more damage. Yeah. But I think,
All right. Well, should we move on to the next one?
I guess
this one is pretty.
Touch quickly on competitive. No.
No.
You don't want to give up concealment in competitive.
Nope.
No. So there's not much else to say other than that. No to competitive. Now we can move on to Conqueror. No, so this one you give up concealment as well, but you gain main turret traverse speed and steering gears repair time and 40% to rudder shift time. So
I have to say, as someone who owns a Conqueror, is why?
Yeah, I don't know.
No one asked for this.
The turret traverse is kind of slow, but I mean, generally, it's never been a problem for me as long as you kind of position yourself where you turn your guns where you're the main.
Yeah, especially since the Conqueror is not a battleship that that fights at close ranges. You fight at long to medium ones. And when you fight at long to medium ranges, like something in any Yamato, where you turret traverse on a Yamato sure is low, you don't care. Because you're fighting at long ranges, and every degree of turn just accounts for more when you're fighting at long ranges.
I think this is another example of wargaming underestimating the power of mobility in their game, and thinking that these minor mobility buffs and the steering gear repair time, again, why do we care?
Yeah, I've never really had a problem with that. So.
That's gonna do nothing.
Hey, what do you want? Do you want your rudder shift to be better on a battleship, or do you want to be the stealthiest battleship in the game?
And Lobster pointed out that, if you're going to be worried about your repair time on your steering gear, it's probably because you took a torpedo to your aft anyway.
Yeah, and it's not going to really make a difference. And the whole strong point of the Conqueror is its concealment, which, I mean, arguably could use a nerf. The whole thing about it is, it's 20 seconds to go dark, for your gun bloom to go down.
I'm pretty sure it's 30 for battleships. Pretty sure it's there at 30 for battleships.
In either way,
I think it's 20 all across the board.
You can go dark between salvos, and it's generally the Conqueror's the Conqueror's strength is it can go dark between firing, and if it really needs to disengage, it's got the stealth to do it. And the Conqueror has a relatively low HP pool, especially for a battleship. It relies on the zombie heal, so if you can't go dark, it's really gonna be a bad thing for the ships.
It's gonna be quite screwed. Yeah.
So overall, I say no. Same thing with competitive. As Montana, you don't really want to give up concealment, especially in a ship where its strength is its concealment. So competitive and randoms, both no.
No.
And it is 20 seconds for all classes, and so that's going to be no.
Yeah, you can go dark between salvos, and that's incredibly annoying when you're a cruiser or a battleship firing at a Conqueror, and it's going dark.
Firing at a Conqueror.
Yeah, and it's going dark between salvos. As long as there's not a destroyer or something else spotting it, it's just going to go hide and disengage at will, which is what makes the ship so powerful.
All right, move on to the next ship, I suppose.
So we'll go on to cruisers now. Zhao is next. Personally, what is this one? The rudder shift, dispersion.
Dispersion and a little bit of range, but the range is pretty much going to compensate for losing the range module, which most Zhaos take already.
9% of the Zhao players use, yep.
Yeah, so you're getting half of what you would get from your range module. You're getting a little more. You're getting some rudder shift and you're getting dispersion. That's
pretty good, if you ask me. I very much like that. It allows you to dodge and weave between enemy shells, since you have to angle your sidearm to be able to bounce shells effectively on the Zhao. So it allows you to do that at medium to long ranges a lot easier, and even at closer ranges. The main battery firing range is going to compensate for the alteration of the old module that most Zhao players with the gunfire control system modification 3, or was it 2? It's 2.
It's 2.
And most especially, better dispersion. Like, yay, why not? Especially for a Zhao that relies on firing at long ranges, better dispersion is great. And it allows you to fire those special AP salvos on broadside enemy ships on things like competitive, even the better.
And on the plus side, you're a Zhao, so one of my favorite trump cards in the Zhao is if I have to, I can play close like a destroyer almost and do those surprise salvos from close range. Unless I'm in a position where I'm kiting in my Zhao, I'm almost never at max range. I mean, you have to play that way if you're being focused down, but you still have, unlike a lot of these other upgrades that we've said no to, you're not losing your concealment, and Zhao concealment's already god tier. So I don't think this one's negatives outweigh its positives.
Honestly, I can't really say negatives about this one. It's great, and it also even compensates for the loss of the other already most used mod for the Zhao, which is the long ranged one. There's no reason not to, if you can acquire this one.
I mean, missing that range will definitely be felt, but I still think it's going to be a good choice, and it's just going to come down to preference on this one, whether you like to be a little bit farther back with the Zhao. or not. Generally, you don't want to be at complete max range with any ship anyway, so I think for me personally, it won't be too big of a loss, and you can also then add in the spotter plane, which most people already use in the ZOW, or at least I do.
Yep. And
So-
spotter plane, together with FAA, should be able to keep you alive quite relatively well in the ZOW and random battles.
This with competitive, I think it'll be good for competitive too. The
Yep.
ZOW is most effectively used when it can get that surprise broadside AP salvo on another cruiser that is absolutely deadly, and we've all been there on the receiving end of that, and it's not fun. So
Let's take a peek at Hindenburg.
Well, no, actually, before we go to Hindenburg, I did notice when researching the different modules that if you slot all 3 rudder shift modules, you can get the rudder shift for the ZOW down to 3 seconds,
ooh,
which is like better than some destroyers. So I think maybe if someone is crazy enough to run some open water ZOW, I think we might see it with this new module.
How
actually
to
a good
roleplay a
point.
Henry by playing this out.
this one
But
actually I
you're-
think is like a good way to turn the whole like meta of these ships on their head. Like it seems like there's one build if you want to be competitive for all these ships. This one can kind of turn it on the head, because now with the max rudder shift, that could actually be sort of viable, even though I don't really recommend giving up concealment for it.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, yeah, you lose the number 1
You can at least
concealment
have
module.
some
but-
fun builds that are actually worth trying out. I don't know, I actually like that about it.
Alright, the Hindenburg.
So this one, you have to give up concealment. And
Again.
already the Hindenburg's concealment is not great. It's 12.3 with the full concealment build. And I don't know, generally, I'm not going to go with this one. I don't know, I guess if you go with the survivability build and fire prevention, fires are, haha, what are those? But you're giving up concealment, which is it's already not the best concealed cruiser as it is.
Honestly, when I saw this upgrade, I was just thinking, and maybe Wargaming is taking the Battleship Hindenburg meme a bit too seriously, because look at this. Minus 70% to flooding time, minus 40% to fire extinguishing time.
I can kind of see it because the Hindenburg is one of the ships I get deleted in the least, I guess is the way I'd phrase that. So, I mean, people talk about Battleship Moskva, haha, funny joke, but really the Moskva has a tendency of getting deleted a lot with that weak broadside. Hindenburg, not so much. So I can kind of see why Wargaming thought this might be valuable, but it's going to come down to some personal preference. Like I personally don't think I'll use it, but I could see someone who, has really gotten the art of open water Hindenburging, that's a hard word to say, down, and has decided that they just rather be spotted more and keep firing.
Which generally...
One thing that I'll say is, you can go, you can talk,
go ahead,
Grosky.
Clay. Go ahead. I'll go next.
No, it's just that there's, even if you want to do open out of Hindenburg, there are 2 little stats in here that are kind of useless, like minus 50% to main battery repair time. Unless you're, I don't know, trying to close Quartus battle Des Moines, which I would not advise in Hindenburg unless you have the benefit of surprise, that's not really that useful, honestly. With using the main battery module, your turrets rarely get struck in a manner that is actually, oh no, my turrets get struck, like it's the end of your line. It's never really that essential.
Yeah,
honestly.
if the other, like, I like the rudder shift time, I like the fire, but
yeah, and then
the
there's
flooding
the
time doesn't really matter, and then you're right, the main battery time doesn't really matter.
And also, there's, speaking of fire times, thanks to the buff that Wargaming did back then, fire times on cruisers last, I believe, half of what it is for battleships. So fire times in cruisers overall hurt a lot less than you would, for example, in the battleship.
Yeah.
Most of the times you can shrug it off with 1 heal, because they don't last a lot. They don't last a lot anymore. So flooding time is useless because it's flooding time. The main battery repair time is The fire reduction is not too bad, but still it seems like a very specific thing for something akin as a cruiser. The only thing that I would really like to say is the minus 20% rudder shift.
Yeah, that's the
And
one
if you
thing
use
I like.
if you use the rudder shift beforehand on the Hindenburg instead of consumer module, then I would say maybe this upgrade is for you. But I believe the meta still probably revolves
My
on
thing with
consumer.
going against rudder shift build, like, you can argue it on Henry, but I don't think it works on Hindenburg as well, because it's a slow ship. It's almost as slow as battleships. So the rudder shift, like, you would kind of use it to dodge and get away, but if you're sitting there having to, like, wiggle and stuff, you're going really slow.
You will be a very slow Hindenburg.
I guess anything, I guess competitive with this, I'd say no.
Nope.
No.
Because the concealment is
Concealment is
already
king.
bad enough. Yeah, and concealment is king.
I'll just jump in as well. I think in competitive it's almost a little bit more useful just because DOT is a bit more prevalent in competitive because people actually focus fire, whereas in randoms you usually just have one fire at a time. And then also the other thing I don't like about this mod is you're basically offsetting your one consumable. It makes your DCP party basically useless. Sorry.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I guess move on to that.
Yep.
To Henry, at least one of my most look forward to upgrades that I'm definitely going to be going for. I'm already kind of strange. I know it's not that uncommon, but I actually take the steering gear modification instead of concealment on my Henry, and it's a lot of fun. I think concealment's up to, like, let me go check it. It's like 14 point something with it. I actually just switched back to kind of get used to having not the non-rudder shift. I rely on the rudder shift too much, so I switched back recently. But I think it was like 14.1 or something concealment with it. With if you don't take the module, but this thing actually adds 10% to your detectability, so you're going to be even more spotted.
I think it's like, what, 15 kilometers thereabouts?
Close to it. I didn't actually do the math in that one. I don't know. I think this one's going to be worth it, though. Henry, generally, you're always firing, and you're going to typically be firing at a distance, not close in, but not exactly max range. So, sure, the increased range is kind of nice, but I don't know. Typically, if I'm firing at 19.1 kilometers in my Henry, I feel I'm doing it wrong.
I think this will be great.
Yeah.
Because I've played Moskva with either without the concealment module or without concealment expert. I think without the concealment module, I think I played it with the rudder shift mod for a while, and that had around the same detection radius as the Henry will have. And that was difficult because the Moskva's fast in a straight line but really slow to turn. The Henry might have a big turning radius, but because of that speed, especially using, the engine boost with like the 4.5 minute engine boost, I spend more time in the Henry spotted than I probably do in my Moskva, and I just don't care that they're shooting at me. If I'm at a certain range, I take it with a little grain of salt that I'm really hard to hit, and either they won't shoot at me or they're going to miss. So the idea that I can pump out more damage, have a little bit more range, and this module is encouraging you to be firing more anyway. So your detectability going up is no big deal to me.
Yeah, I kind of play Henry as like the aggro ship where I actually try to get attention on me, so that way, another cruiser can go either cap or the destroyer can go cap, or another cruiser can just sit there and just add to the fire too. And sure, let them shoot at me. I can generally dodge better than they can. And with this also stacks with the reload module, which most people take anyways. Your reload goes down to what, like 8.8 seconds? Which is what the current Hindenburg reload, which is set to be nerfed. So, think of a Hindenburg that can do 40 plus knots. That's awesome.
With, how big are the Henry's guns again? I forget, 300, no, not 300, like 240.
240.
Yep, 240.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that, because I'm discovering how much I like the Henry right now, and I think increasing its DPM can only make it more fun.
So, clan battles on this one, though, I'm kind of, torn on it. Concealment's super hard to give up. Concealment is king in clan battles, so I don't think it's going to be worth it for clan battles specifically. Maybe you can get away with ranked, because there's less coordination on the team. I don't think it'll actually be worth it because your concealment already kind of sucks, and Henry's easy to get focused down as it is.
My only counterpoint would be I saw a lot of Henrys in clan battles. Basically, they used them to get on a flank very quickly,
Yeah.
and either engage a target on that flank or basically kite that flank. I remember a lot on Hotspot that Henry would go out to the far side of the sea cap and spot our Hindenburgs, and then Hindenburgs would engage and chase the Henry would run away and, kite them into a battleship or a destroyer. And I think with the extra range and the extra reload, the Henry could actually perform that role and probably do more of the damage dealing, because it's going to be spotted anyway.
It could have that niche role if you, I don't know, like how people use the Minotaur for climb battles. You kind of have to design your strategy, your team strategy around that, weakness, I guess, and make it a positive or at least protect it.
I do see your point, though. It's a less preferred ship in the first place, but I think for the role they use it, this might actually help.
Yep. So what's next? Minotaur?
Minotaur.
This one, so I guess if, does this kind of make it similar to like the Perth smoke then? I didn't actually research this one a whole lot.
It 50% add to your smoke screen time. 10% to dispersion of shells fired by the enemy attacking your ship, which basically is a nerf to that lock-on dispersion buff that everyone gets when they lock onto the target. A little bit of a detection range. Let's see, it replaces slot 5, doesn't it?
Yeah, so you give up concealment for this.
You give up 5% concealment, which isn't too bad on the Minotaur because it's already pretty good as it is.
I could actually see this one.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it has the best concealment in class. I don't know if the booster will have better,
I think it's 8.9, right?
Yeah, it's really, really fucking good with the concealment mod.
Yeah, I think it's got to be its best in class, like you said, and I could actually see this one being used by like highly specific, I guess like highly niche plays. Certain people I think will make good use of this, but overall I don't
honestly,
think I can.
With while the duration of the smoke screen itself is going to be nerfed, with the buff to smoke screen generation time, it's going to become this mini version of the Perth at tier 10. And so honestly, I don't think it's too bad of a trade-off if you want to do it.
It's not horrible.
No, but how long is the Minotaur's default smoke lane? Because it's only like 6 seconds or something like that.
I'm looking it up right now.
Because it's already slow because it's. Oh yeah, I'm looking on the site right now.
So right now it's active. The smoke for Minotaur is active for 15 seconds.
Is it really?
Yep, they buffed it not recently, but not too long ago. It used to be you had to be almost at a full stop. I believe now you can actually be on full speed, hit smoke, and then hit the brakes, and you'll still be in your smoke by the time it's done.
So you'll have a 23-second smoke. That's not quite. Perth is a minute and a half.
Yeah.
I guess if you run the smoke screen generator, no. This is basically going to get you to like U.S. destroyer levels of smoke laying. But what's the duration of the smoke on the Minotaur?
Let's go. It's
113 seconds is the dispersion time.
So what's 15% of 113? This is one of those ships where I think actual numbers are going to be.
Yeah, I said, I guess while you do that, quickly touch on competitive, as a sidebar while you check that out. I don't think this will be really worth it in competitive because you typically take radar Minotaur. Or at least that's the common thing. There are the occasional smoke Minotaur. Obviously, you give up smoke for radar. So if you're going to be using a radar Minotaur, this is completely worthless. Don't use it.
So if I'm doing the math right, this will bring you down to about 96 seconds from 113.
This isn't too bad.
No.
This seems like
it's not so bad. I think you guys touched on it earlier. I think the amount of smoke generation you're going to get is better than the amount of duration you're going to lose.
Yeah, I see this one possibly being used. I don't think I'll take it. Just a little bit extra smoke laying time. It's kind of like already a destroyer's role. I guess it does help you support your team a little bit more if you need to smoke somebody up.
I don't think 5% extra detection is really going to be a problem.
I mean, honestly, I don't think this is like even a buff or a nerf to the Minotaur itself by swapping this with concealment module, especially because it brings benefits to concealment on its own, which reduces the demerit that you would generally have. I would probably see this used on a lot of meme builds with Raider Minotaur and playing around in the open water.
Well, you couldn't.
But
You wouldn't want to
if-
use that. I guess.
Out of that, honestly,
I guess yeah.
I-
Open water. I didn't think about it. There's the increase the dispersion of shells fired at you.
yeah, plus 10% is pretty good.
but
Just
then
some
it's still-
background. This is going to increase your detection range to 9.4, which is still pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can actually still stealth Thorpe, which is
9.4
Wow.
versus 8.9. I don't think that 0.5 is going to matter much.
no.
So
Especially
I
because
think-
how you have better concealment than 10 kilometers, which is
Yeah.
a good first rule. You can outspot a Des Moines, for
So,
example,
let's-
which
speaking
will
of
prevent
Des
you from
Moines.
being dead to radar on open water.
Let's move on to the Des Moines.
Or the-
Perfect.
I think we can clearly cover this as I personally say no.
No.
You don't really want the reduction of radar. It doesn't. It seems like you're kind of picking at it, but there's the supposedly work in progress test where they're going to reduce the radar module itself, where it brings it down to 40 something seconds now if you have the module, and then you add this reduction to it. It's gonna, I don't know, it's not gonna really benefit you to even add that module as much. Currently with the module, radar is 56 seconds, and Des Moines does have the slowest acceleration, I believe, of the cruisers. I don't know if somebody wants to correct me on that.
I believe you're right.
So
It's not good, whatever it is.
Yeah, and there's a big debate whether to take propulsion or steering gears. I don't know. This one, giving up your reload doesn't really seem worth it too, because Des Moines, you either
Yeah, I mean, if you want to go forward faster, can't you just get the propulsion mod and instead of the reload one, and there you go?
exactly. I don't know. This one just doesn't generally seem worth it. I guess if you are playing open water Des Moines, you want that rudder shift time, you want to be able to accelerate faster. I mean, I could see it being used in very specific scenarios and playstyles. Overall, giving up your range, if you want to run range mod, to have a little bit of flexibility to shoot enemies farther away, or if you want to run reload module for extra DPM, doesn't really seem worth it to give all
No.
that stuff up.
Again,
I
it's
should
that
move
thing
on to
where
the
we
next
don't
because this
really,
is so. Wow.
we don't
Yeah.
think that the benefits really outweigh the
Quickly-
costs of what you're giving up.
Quickly to touch on competitive, I don't think it's really worth to give up your radar duration. I mean,
Definitely not.
one of the big strengths of Des Moines is its long radar, and shortening that, I don't think is really worth it. So, moving on to the Worcester.
Worcester.
Again, this one's just highly speculation since none of us have actually played this ship. We're just looking at it on...
Oh, I'm a secret super tester. I never told you guys.
Yeah. I generally don't think this one's going to be too useful. It's already... what are you're giving up concealment.
Yeah, this would be giving up concealment.
Does anyone know that the concealment of the Worcester is without
Base?
module?
Is 12.24. I'm gonna look up on WoW's Fit right now and see if I can't get.
Yeah,
the-
if you do it full concealment spec, it goes down to 9.8, and if you take the legendary module, it's up to 10.9.
Okay.
Honestly, that's not bad at all.
10.9
Yeah, it's not
though on
bad,
a ship.
but I feel
no.
like the couple extra seconds you get on the consumables isn't really worth it.
Yeah.
I would say this is
Because, I mean,
probably
defensive, you're already, you're going to kill all the planes in the first 30 seconds. It's defensive extension is pretty pointless.
Honestly, I'm probably gonna use this on my AA spec booster because it's an AA spec booster, but outside of such a highly specific situation, probably concealment.
But I
Yeah.
feel like even in a AA spec booster, why would you need 10 extra seconds on defensive fire?
Pop the
You don't
FA
understand
module.
what a true AA spec. Come on.
Yeah,
You get the
I
AA
see
mod,
what Klane's
you get
sort of
the FA
saying.
mod.
Yeah, you add the Def AA module, increased duration, you add this, and then you add the AA module. It's pretty powerful, but I see Kaiser's point. Unless they're
No,
dumb enough
it's
to
not
just park-
competitive. It doesn't really make much sense. It's just something that you can do for fun. And that's what I would basically say this mod is. It's something that you could put on for fun.
Yeah,
I
other than
think
that-
the
It brings solid to the
survivability-
table.
of the Worcester is going to be entirely on its concealment and its positioning.
Exactly. It's
I
not
think
a.
if you give up concealment in this ship, you're really playing
Exactly. And if you have the radar mod, you can already put the radar mod, and it sacrifices a much less useful slot, and you could just
Well,
put it on there,
It's
and
not a very
there we
heavily
go.
armored ship, so you need your concealment to live, and it doesn't
Yeah,
have the British zombie heal either. So please
Yeah,
note
its
that
concealment
too.
by itself is pretty good, but
And to answer the question,
buffing it, it's just so much more important than, hey, mom, your death AA lasts 20 seconds, like 14 seconds longer. Congrats.
and to answer the question in the stream, I like Kevin said, I think it's already an AA trap, and I think it's only going to be useful if you're maybe if they bring back Kings of the Sea, and you just need a ship that can really completely counter the enemy CV. Then maybe you take this mod, but I think outside of that, it's going to be pretty much.
I mean, from what I know, the point of an AA spec ship such as the Minotaur and the Worcester is like Def AA would definitely make your AA bubble that much more effective. But with the bulk of the AA, the Worcester's AA being on the long range guns, and in comparative places like Kings of the Sea, you generally see Minotaurs with AFT, the AA range module, and manual anti-air.
Yeah.
And you would probably see a similar thing happening to the Worcester. And the Worcester with manual AA, NAFT, and the AA range module is going to be just as effective as a Minotaur, even without Def AA.
Yep.
So you're already going to shoot down planes a whole lot, and you're going to be able to AA trap very effectively.
So I think we can
Even
move
without
on
doing that.
from this one. Competitive modes, no. Concealment's still king, I'd say.
No.
That I don't expect Worcester to be a really good clan battleship. I guess we'll see.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's basically a Minotaur.
But
no-
Yeah,
It's not
it's a boat made to kill planes, and you don't have planes, so.
So I guess Moskva is next.
Woo!
I'll let you
Alright,
Moskva
I'll let him
enthusiast.
talk.
You go. Let me talk about this one.
Yeah.
All right, so you're getting 11% better dispersion on your main battery shells. You're getting an 8% boost to your main battery firing range, and you're losing some traverse speed. And it replaces slot 6, which I would normally, any self-respecting Moskva would put the reload module on. I don't know what the Moskva's default reload rate is, because they don't know off the top of their heads, or I can look it up.
I can look it up too if you want to keep talking.
I got it here. Let's see. Rate of fire, reload time is 10.35 seconds. That's not great for a tier 10 cruiser as it is. And I was trying to think here. The Moskva doesn't need more range. It can. One nice thing about the Moskva is it could use that range. Like, its guns are good enough that the extra range isn't going to be a problem. Like, you're going to still hit your targets at that. Henry would like a word. You're still going to hit your targets at that range. And that with the dispersion, you'd probably land more shots. I think this one is going to be more about. This one's going to be more about personal preference. Honestly, I like Moskva's reload with that reload module. I don't think I need the range or the extra accuracy. Personally.
Yeah, I haven't played Moskva yet. I'm still grinding on the Chappie. But I know I'm looking at it the way when I see a Moskva and how I want to counter it. I know its reload isn't stellar even with reload mod. Most ships can out DPM it. Especially like Hindenburg or Des Moines. Des Moines loves when a Moskva closes in on it because it's basically going to be a free kill unless the Des Moines goes full broadside.
And you don't have torpedoes to counter.
Yeah, neither, especially if it's Des Moines versus Moskva, the Moskva is going to stand zero chance without reload module. Not that it really would win
the
anyways.
Moskva, especially if they're up close, the one is just gonna sling AP, disable all the Moskva's turrets, and just finish it off.
Yeah.
Now, I will say that with this, let's see. Maybe you guys keep talking for just 1 second. I'm going to do some math on this real quick and see what this range comes out to.
Because, the dispersion, I'm sure will be good. But I don't see this one as a battleship where you're going to be firing from max range and then even
Yeah,
if
exactly.
you do, you're not going to get like a devastating salvo
I'm
from
gonna
far
say
away.
this would be a very interesting upgrade for something like a Kronstadt or a Stalingrad. But for a cruiser, sacrificing the Moskva's DPM, which is already pretty bad for the ship that it's in, and then you have to put on count that it only fires 2 of its 3 turrets most of the time as well.
Yeah.
So the range
Yeah.
is not going to matter. It's only going to take you from 19.5 to 21.
That's not a big deal.
That's not big at all. The 11% dispersion. I mean, we talked about Zhao getting, how much was Zhao's? Like 7.
Yeah.
11% dispersion is no small. That's
Exactly.
not. We can't overlook that. That's great.
Yeah.
I think it'll come down to.
It's
The
dispersion
DPM
isn't bad already though.
I don't want to go too long on the Moskva, but there was a guy on Reddit a while ago who talked about theoretical DPM, where he calculated in everything from gun arcs to max range to a bunch of other stuff, and he actually found out that most of the cruisers, when you factor in all their extra variables besides raw DPM and reload speed, they're all pretty similar as it is in terms of damage they can put out over whatever preferred range. I think it'll come down to, do you want to shoot more often or do you want your shells to hit more often?
Yeah, I don't
can't
even
pick.
think that
What's
it's
the-
really that relevant, especially considering how the Moskva is already by default exceedingly accurate.
What's
I think
the-
if I get it, I think I'll try it because I think it'll increase your ability to punish a broadside cruiser at range.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll definitely try it, but
I
I'll
think
probably
as you
go
said,
back
this one's
to
going to
reload.
be depending on preference and playstyle. What's Moskva's reload with reload module? Do you know off the top of your head on that?
9.1
up-
second. 9.1 second.
9.1.
Yeah, with a reload module at the moment.
Yeah. So with reload module, it's still faster reload than say a Zhao. I think Zhao with reload module comes down to like 12 something.
And I have a 32.8 degree rotation speed. Well, that won't matter. Well, that's I'm looking at degrees per second, don't I?
And I think too, I guess without dwelling in Moskva too long, clan battles, I think this will be the same thing. Depends on the team's playstyle. I personally would rather have the DPM in clan battles, but then again, clan battles is pretty static, so I could see the dispersion being really beneficial.
On this one, I would actually argue the Moskva's upgrade would be better and competitive for the role it takes in clan battles. It takes that sort of that flanking shot. Remember the Moskvas that would sit like in the corners of those islands and basically just get all the flanking shots into our guys behind like the islands at hotspot and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what you would use this for. And then when you up the range and get the dispersion better, and it's stationary, so you don't have to worry about rotation speed. I think this upgrade would actually do better for what the Moskva does in Clan Wars.
So moving on to destroyers now, unless you guys have anything else to add before we go.
I could talk about Moskva for about 12 hours.
I
But
know, that's why I'm trying to cut it short. So Kaba. I haven't played the Kaba, so I believe MS, you and Kaiser have, and I think Clayne, you have it as well. So I'll let you guys talk.
I just from you or me, Clean.
You can talk.
Okay. I would say. Well, I don't think the Kaba is very competitive to begin with, so I'm kind of just talking about randoms here. I like the increase to. I like the increase. I like the better DPM. I like the range. The turret rotation speed I don't think is going to really hinder it that much. It's only 13%. It's not like the. I don't think the Cobb's turret traverse speed is going to be the problem, but I think you have the same problem with most of these other ships is you're going to have to either give up if you run concealment on your Cobb or if you run steering gears. And I believe I run steering gear, and I think if you give up that steering gear, it's going to be really painful to play the Khabarovsk.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, like the steering has been nerfed before because the Kaba was just too effective, and you kind of needed the steering gears mod to play the Kaba like effectively. And even though you are getting range with this module, the extra range is basically this it's a wash with the survivability that you give up for having worse maneuverability. So overall, I personally don't think this will be worth it. This seems to be catering more towards more of a smoke firing Kaba, which I think is not a very effective way to play it.
Yes.
It's
No.
certainly not in
You're
this
not
meta.
true
It's
Russian if you use that.
I mean, the whole point of Kaba is its speed, so you don't
Yeah.
really want to be sitting in smoke anyways.
You can take advantage of a friendly smoke. You can even take advantage of firing behind an island, but you should not be equipping your smoke yourself.
The only thing I can conceivably think that would be a decent build of this is like a full range spec Kaba. I think that could be viable, and with smoke, you'd be out of the detection, you'd be out of the radar range of most cruisers.
I mean, most
Yeah, but
Kaba
that
builds
also
already
sounds
take AFT,
pretty
so
simple.
it's not like
Well, AFT, and then I think you could take the with AFT
mod.
and the range mod. What do you go up to?
no,
Yeah, 'cause
Kaba
you're-
doesn't get range mod. That's the
Oh,
one
that's right.
thing.
Yeah. And
Did
you're
they
giving
take
up
that away from
concealment for
Kaba?
this.
I don't. DD's never got range mod.
It was on
Yeah, I
the
don't think
Udall
they
got
do.
range mod.
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
Yeah,
Could you spell wrong?
so
you're,
I
you're wrong,
guess
MS.
To
Yeah,
add
that's
to
that's on the right way.
competitive, I say no, but again, I haven't played it, so you guys can answer that.
Honestly, even in competitive, being able to dodge shells, since like the point of the Khabarovsk is to be focused fire most of the times, and if you bring in competitive, you're probably doing it for the specific part of attracting and diverting enemy attention. You want to be able to dodge those shells to be able to stay alive. Since while generally concealment is king, the Khabarovsk is basically the destroyer exception of that. It's the destroyer version of the Henry.
If you're gonna give up concealment, give it up for steering gears, then, so you could dodge more
Yeah, you
effectively.
become the RPG equivalent of an agility tank, and you don't want to get hit on that thing.
Yeah,
Okay,
like
still
Yeah,
take
the
it.
they could have decided to buff either its concealment or its maneuverability, and they decided to buff its range, which is not what it needs.
It's
I
just
mean,
not something that it
people
use.
want range, but not at this cost. This cost is too high.
Exactly, and especially at long ranges, your shells are just gonna be even harder to be able to hit on an enemy because he's just gonna have more time to react.
Yeah.
So
Since
moving on
you being a
to
destroyer. Now let's just move on.
moving on to Z. I guess I haven't played this one either, but I don't know. On paper, it's already got I believe the fastest torpedo reload for a tier 10 destroyer. Is that correct? I think it's like close to 90 seconds or so, or even.
Let me check.
I only have experience with
Let me check.
Z46, so I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, Clayton, if you want to check. I guess on paper, again, giving up concealment
Alright.
for it when a ship that already kind of has not too great concealment, at least you're only giving up 5% concealment, which I guess isn't
Let me
horrible.
say that without the torpedo 3 million module and the torpedo skill, your torpedo reload is already 90 seconds.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess
So
Without the
additional
skill or without
15%.
any module.
I could see this one being potentially viable in randoms, just for like a specific meme, not even.
Did you
meme
say-
build, but
Did you say 90 seconds, Clay?
90 seconds.
So this
Without
would
any
make your
modules
reload-
or buffs or skills.
oh, okay. So if you add torpedo acceleration or not torpedo, was it armament expertise?
As we all scramble to go to WoW's Fit.
Yeah. So if you add, I'll let you guys do that, and I'll talk a little bit. So if you add torpedo armament expertise, and then you still have the 5th module slot for torpedo reload boosting. Like if I go and look at it in my Yueyang, what is it?
It could be quite funny. pretty
You're
much.
gonna have a super fast reload. So I could actually see this one playing a specific torpedo boat role in random battles, but definitely giving up that little bit of concealment on a destroyer that already has bad concealment.
Tom, is that 68 seconds before or after the legendary module?
I think
Tom's
he's saying
talking
with
to us in
it.
chat.
I think he's
With
saying with it before AR kicks in. So if you're full health.
No, it actually goes down to 62 seconds with all the modules.
Okay, so that's an incredibly hilarious. Oh, it's 68 without the legendary module. So yeah.
Yeah, it's down to 62.
You bring it down to 62. So what is that? 6 seconds difference?
Yeah.
I
Is
don't
that
know.
really worth the concealment?
I
No.
say no.
No.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Well,
I mean, like,
let's see.
preferably,
Well,
I generally build my Z52 as a gunboat, since I generally play it in a way to specifically hunt down enemy destroyers and maul them with my guns.
So
Yeah.
But using torpedoes, if you're gonna use torpedoes like that, sacrificing concealment for it is just not worth it. Especially when your
That's-
concealment is not really that good for the tier you're in.
kind of one of
A
the
lot
things
of other ships already outspot you.
About Z, at least when I face against it, is I never try to engage one because I know what the Z wants. It wants you to engage, come close enough, that way you're in hydro range. It smokes up, hydros you, and just basically farms damage off of you.
Yeah, it
so
mauls you.
I guess that little bit less detection, I think, could actually really be felt. If I detect him sooner, I could just nope and turn around immediately. Again, it's not like a huge, massive concealment, nerf, I guess, by taking that module. But that little bit could give me just enough time to turn around, and it's the difference between the Z getting off, 3 salvos instead of 5 or something, like...
I think it's only going to raise your detection range by about 0.25 kilometers.
But on a ship that already has
0.3.
not great concealment, it could
Yeah,
be
let me
felt.
just tell you.
Your
The
DPM on your
ZP2
torpedoes goes up
the ZP2
massively.
Let me tag for a second. The ZP2 with a concealment build has worse concealment than the concealment builds of Shimakaze, Gearing, Grozovoi, and the Yueyang.
Right.
So, do you want to make that even worse, even though you're already the worst in class besides the Khabarovsk?
I think it depends on whether or not you want to run your Z52 as a anti-DD or a torpedo boat. If you want to go full torpedo boat, this build's hilariously good. That increased reload.
I guess to
not going to be able to dogfight enemy DDs as well as you used to.
Yeah, I guess it depends if you want to play this as more of a torpedo boat or not. I would say generally no, but if you really want to do that niche role and kind of have some fun with that, it's viable. It's just not optimal.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it can definitely be quite fun to do, but me playing as the torpedo spec ZFT2 would be kind of counterintuitive, especially considering how your strength is. Like, you only have 8 torpedoes at tier 10, which is why they reload fast, but they don't do especially good damage, and their range is 10.5, which is okay.
Their speed is good.
Yeah. You guys have anything else you want to add to that before we move to Shima?
Not really, no.
I think I personally take it because my Z46, my favorite part of that ship is my quick torpedoes. I don't dogfight enemy DDs as much as most, so.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's your I mean, it's basically your choice. You can choose. Depends on your build. All right, Shimakaze, my waifu.
So this one I think is kind of interesting.
Gross.
You'll have super fast reload
Gross.
of the torpedoes, especially if you fully spec it.
My only answer is God, yes, please. Give it to me now.
You do have slower torpedo traverse speed. I don't know how slow it is already. I haven't played this one. I don't know, Clayton, is it already pretty slow? Is it pretty good?
With the 3 million torpedo reload module, well, that doesn't really make a difference, does it? They turn in 6 seconds. So, hey, you're gonna nerf 6 seconds to plus 80% of 6 seconds.
So I guess it's not too bad, but it'll definitely be felt in close quarters battles.
Which you should not be.
Which you shouldn't be, but sometimes it does. Like, I mean, the Shima still has the cap, and its concealment is pretty good, so it's good at that. So I don't know. I feel like that could be felt.
Just so you know, that I'm pretty sure with the module you're ending up with 30-second torpedo traverse, which is pretty terrible.
Somebody in Admiral Winfield in chat is saying it'll take 30 seconds to turn around, so that's pretty bad, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I don't think I personally would mind in a Shimakaze.
I guess it depends on how you play the Shima.
Well, yeah, the Shimakaze is by itself a ship that's specialized in launching off its torpedoes and relying on its torpedoes to do the bulk of the damage and the killing. Its guns are okay. They're reliable for what they do, but they will not grant you a whole lot of the DD kills unless they're like a third of the HP that they usually would be, and you're full HP. You're not going to really outgun anything on a cap that's not another Shimakaze or something that's already nearly dead. The Shimakaze is not a destroyer made for close quarters battle, even with the 50 kilo, even with all the torpedoes and without this module.
And my counter argument to that is you have to cap, and whether you're absolutely right. Shima should not be seeking out close quarters battles. But you kind of, just by capping, you can find yourself in that where you see another destroyer, sure, you should outspot every other destroyer. I don't know, but just when you see them that close, you can maybe get off a torpedo salvo, and or if they're charging you, you can turn in a torpedo salvo, and if your torpedoes happen to be facing the other way, you're just kind of done for. There's not much. You have no like counter. At least before, you could send a wall of torpedoes at them to even just discourage them to go near you, even if they won't hit. Just to kind of leave it as like a, oh hey, I need to get out of here. This will make them turn around or slow down or something. I don't know. I think having that ability could, be negative, or losing that ability could be negative. But you're right. If you're playing it more as like a, hey, I'm just going to send wall of torpedoes in that direction, it could be really useful.
I mean, honestly, I still probably would use this, since the Shimakaze's main schmidt is the torpedoes. I mean, generally, you can already, like, a gearing is a much more balanced ship.
Yeah.
And while it doesn't have the extra 5 torpedoes, there's still 16 kilometers range while being quite fast and doing quite a bit of damage. Honestly, I would probably use this just because the Shimakaze by itself is already a specialized destroyer. And this specific skill would specialize it even more. Generally depends, do you want your Shimakaze to be a bit more all-purpose, or do you want to specialize it even more on doing what it does best, which is wall of skill?
Yeah.
Without those torpedoes you want. That's your choice. Alright, should we move on to the next one?
Was Admiral, real quick before we move, Admiral Winfield's also saying with Aiming Systems Modification 1, you can use that to increase the torpedo tube traverse speed down to 25 seconds if you pick this module. So, I guess you can use that to counteract it, which you would probably use anyways. AA and Shima is not that great, so taking a Guns Modification 1 wouldn't be a huge loss if you missed out on it. So I guess that's the last quick thing. And clan battles are competitive. I mean, I could actually see this one being somewhat viable. Then again, Shima isn't really played in clan battles a whole lot anyways, so I don't know. I guess it's possible that you might want this to just keep sending out walls of torpedoes. But again, too, if you don't generally find yourself in a one-on-one destroyer fight, but if you do, you're at a significant downside to it.
Which I would say you're already at disadvantage because you're playing a Shima
if you're
fighting
anyway,
a destroyer. Yeah. Yes.
So onto the gearing. This one, you trade the concealment module, because why? What would you take anything else in gearing? So I guess this one is really all about concealment, as it adds in concealment to it.
Yeah, it's a turnaround from all the other modules we've seen that take away some of the concealment.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so you gain 5% more concealment in trade of everything else that you could probably get.
I mean, I think we touched on this one before, and looking at our notes, I don't know if any of us are really on board with this one.
No.
Because that little extra detection range is only going to really help you fight Shimakaze, and
Yep.
And you need that main battery time. You need that reload. I mean, the torpedo tube is not that big of a problem, but 15% to your reload is pretty nasty, and I think you're going to really want that.
Yeah, I mean, congratulations, you're going to be able to outspot the Yueyang, because the Yueyang outspots you by 100 meters. 100 meters worth that.
But what happens when you actually want to engage that Yueyang? You're going to lose the gunfight.
Yeah.
You're going to be spotted for probably half a second earlier.
Yeah.
So
pretty much. It's 100 meters difference.
So do any of us actually have the opinion of this would be worth it?
Generally, I say no, but I could see it being for clan battles.
Yeah, I suppose for clan battles.
Yeah.
But then
if you're going to use it more like a spotter boat.
The meta for clan battles, unless it changes for this next season, is Yueyang's kind of king. At least that's what
radar.
I've been seeing and everything. And even if you spot the Yueyang, you're still in its radar range, so it'll just radar you, and you're going to lose that gun battle then. So I'd actually even say no.
Speaking of Yueyang.
Yeah, just jumping on that gearing thing, that your detection range in clan battles is effectively 10 kilometers if there's radar around, so most of the time you're not working at the exact limit of your detection.
Yeah.
And the DPM, when you are in a spotting war with another destroyer, you're often going to have to fight them, and then you just want all the DPM you get.
Yeah,
exactly. I still think gearing will be viable in clan wars. It's just they're quite close to Yueyang, but the Yueyang does have some advantages.
I think the Yueyang has slightly better concealment, so...
And the ability to mount radar, which is useful.
I don't know, adding this I think will be kind of nice, but then again, if you're in spotting range of another destroyer, like you said, you're going to enter a gun battle, and losing that, I know, your Daka guns is going to be felt.
I mean, most gun battles in Clan Wars end with one destroyer getting away with, like, maybe a few thousand health, so...
Yeah.
15%.
All right, next, let's go.
Yueyang. This one, you give up your concealment module for torpedo tubes and main battery loading time. Generally...
Alright, you guys get this Shimakaze thing again. Make your ship even more specialized.
Yeah. Oh, real quick, before we go too far, Admiral Winfield asked Fletcher Torps options added to the gearing for clan battles. If that'll be too short-ranged. I think so. Was it going to be 10.5? You're just outside of the Des Moines radar range still. And then you're still definitely within the Moscow's radar range. And I don't know, I guess Salem, if that becomes common in clan battles. And then also, what is Worcester's radar range? I don't actually know. I think it's going to be close to Des Moines, if not a little less. So I think, honestly, no, I probably wouldn't take it on my gearing if I was going to be the destroyer. The Fletcher Torps that are proposed, which I don't think have officially said they're going to be for sure added. Have they? I guess nobody knows, but either way, I still think the gearing 16-kilometer torps will be the preferred.
Probably better. I would definitely play better, just because it makes them more flexible.
Torps in Clan Wars are area denial weapons more than direct damage weapons, so
yeah.
Range is more important in my
Alright,
opinion.
Yueyang, this upgrade seems not too bad for randoms if you want to make it a more specialized torpedo boat to hunt down enemy battleships and cruisers and the like. For competitive, this seems to be pretty bad, especially considering how competitive Yueyang is, Raider Yueyang.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to give up that duration. So competitive, no. Clan battles, you really want that radar, which I think with the radar module, it's only like 26 seconds or something like that. It's not very long either way.
This would be a killer build for randoms.
But you're giving up concealment, though, which Yueyang is pretty good at concealment.
Yeah.
It's going to be an interesting trade-off, and I think could be used on certain playstyles, but overall, I don't think I'll take it.
Mm.
Oh yeah. So the radar in Yueyang without the radar module is 20 seconds. Without the radar mod.
Yeah. So I don't know. You don't really want to reduce that any bit because it's already pretty short.
It's already very short, and its purpose is you radar the enemy destroyer so your team can go and kill him, and every single second counts to go and try to finish off that enemy destroyer that you probably radar to begin with.
Yeah, so I'd say overall, I don't know, I'm not going to take it. It could be used in randoms, though. Competitive, no.
Yeah, in randoms, maybe. Competitive, no. Next.
Moving on to Grozovoi.
This demonic thing of Satan.
I don't know, this one, we kind of talked about it a little bit earlier, Klein.
Yeah.
So I did a little bit of the math earlier. If you want to take reload mod for the Grozovoi, and again, I haven't played Grozovoi, so I guess take all that I say with a little bit of grain of salt. I'm just talking about it as I would see it on paper. Reload is normally 4 seconds without any buffs or anything like that. If you take the normal reload upgrade, if you want to use it as a gunboat, it goes down to 3.52. With the legendary upgrade, it brings it down to 3.28. So you're really not getting a whole lot better. And would you actually take torpedo tubes on a Grozovoi? I don't think the range is that. It's like, what, 10 something?
The Grozovoi torpedoes are pretty weak kilometers.
They're what? Sorry,
they're 10 kilometers, 65 knots on speed, and 14.6 thousand on damage. They're very mediocre. Very, very mediocre, I would say. Playing them, they don't do a whole lot of damage, especially at tier 10 when pretty much everything has good torpedo belts. Yeah. They reload at 129 seconds, which is pretty painful. That is without some of the reload upgrades, for example. Compare that to the Z52's 90 seconds base. Like, look at that. They're faster. They have 0.5 more range. It just has really bad torpedoes, and buffing them doesn't really feel worth it. The Grozovoi is already pretty much a gimmick boat that relies on its def AA and its AA in general to be able to be effective in any composition.
Yeah, we were talking. We only see this like if somebody's divisioning with the CV player.
And its guns are good. Like the velocity on its guns are a very overlooked quality of the Grozovoi, and so I think this is going to give you. I think my math may be horribly wrong, but it's a slight DPM buff. It's an extra 16 rounds total, 16 shells a minute increase.
And I mean, with the upcoming heal that it quote unquote might get, who knows, PTS, but I think it might just be like a pseudo Kaba.
Yeah, exactly. You're gonna be kind of doing a smoke Khabarovsk heal build.
I take it.
Weird Frankenstein thing. Yeah. I mean, honestly, if I would like to play the Grozovoi in the way that it's right now, I'd probably just play the Gearing instead. It's so much more balanced and has better torpedoes that can actually do something.
So
I like my Khabarovsk when I play it at A spec, but I can't exactly say that it's a good ship even with this upgrade.
So another thing too is if you take this reload, which is better, it brings it down to 3.28. You also have better turret traverse speed. Because if you say you took the gun upgrade, your decrease to turret traverse is 13%. This one's only 7%, or minus 7%. So
you are emphasizing your strongest asset one, and you're minimalizing your weakest. And to me, that's just a straight up upgrade.
Especially if this does get heal, I think this will actually be good then, because you're going to be using it as a gunboat. You're not going to be afraid to take some damage. But overall, I guess it's kind of a preference thing. I haven't played it, so
I would say that right now, maybe with the introduction of the heal, as soon as Wargaming implements that, my opinions will change. Come out with like a heal together with this little upgrade. But right now, my opinions are mixed.
In clan battles, I'd say no. Generally, in clan battles, you don't want to be in a one-on-one DD fight anyways. Like best case scenario, you win, but you lose most of your health. And Grozovoi isn't a great clan battle ship anyways.
Give me a second.
And then I guess with King of the Sea, Grozovoi is used a bit more commonly. But you would be using it as an AA ship, so you'd probably take the AA guns modification instead. So I don't really see it being too great for clan battles. I guess you could use it and have some better guns, but you're not going to really take Grozovoi much anyways. So.
Well, this is the point of the stream where I think most of us are going to log off and just let Clay talk about carriers for an hour.
Did Clean go away for a second, it sounds like?
Oh.
It sounds like it. Great when we need him. I guess.
Well, we can read the script that he wrote.
Yeah, so none of us besides Klein are CV players, so we're. I guess we'll give him a second to come back. We were really hoping he'd talk about this. I honestly have no idea what I would even think about taking here. I've only gotten up to like tier 5 on my Bogue.
As you should, because you're a well-adjusted human.
He's probably just ordering a pizza now. So.
Yeah, right. Anybody have questions or anything they want us to go over a little bit more? We'll leave a second for that. I know we're trying to wrap this up here because we don't want it to run too long.
I'm really on board for that Grozovoi upgrade.
Yeah.
Because I miss the old.
I think my favorite upgrade is going to be the open water Zao. I want to try that so bad now.
Yeah.
Just the 3-second rotor shift. Oh man, that'll be amazing.
I'm more interested for the ones that I'm not sure how I'm going to like Moskva's upgrade. I have no idea how I'm going to feel about that because that's going to be, I'm going to have to try it to figure out if I like it. Which it excites me that I wouldn't honestly like. I like the Grozovoi upgrade. I like the Henry upgrade. It's the ones that I feel like are probably like no-brainers. Like this is the one I would pick. But I kind of wish Wargaming did more stuff like the Moskva's upgrade, where it's a legitimate question of, do I take this or do I not take this?
Yeah.
Like, I'd like there to be more than one. Like I'd like there to be like 2 or 3 more viable builds.
Like the whole thing, at least why I think they even did this in the first place is, for the most part, like each build is identical. Like, World of Warships has a problem of like min-maxing where there's only I don't know, like 1 or 2 builds most people take. So I think this is their way of trying to kind of break that up. Personally, I don't even think these modules should really be needed. Tier 10 is, out of all the tiers for, tier for tier, it's probably the most balanced of the tier, I guess I would say. It does definitely have its problems, but overall I'd prefer competitive on tier 10 just because I know there's no like one bullshit ship that is going to be, everybody's going to be using aside from Hindenburg, but we've even seen like a departure from that. So I guess we can skip CVs if Klein doesn't want to come back.
I mean, I can answer the competitive question for CVs. They don't exist, so there we go.
I mean, King of the Sea. I guess we can talk about.
Well, King of the Sea is, unless you're 07 and you think you're being funny, you're gonna run 422 Hakuryu anyway.
We can read his script and see if any of the people like revolt in chat.
I'm back.
Okay,
I'm back.
please, thank God. So talk
The rest
about
of us
carriers.
can check out. Bye.
No, sorry. I may have forgotten the oil on the fire, so there was like smoke the entire house.
Of course, it's related to food.
At least you have a good excuse.
Hey, fuck off.
Sorry, so
I did. I was a bit worried.
Talk about Midway. Provided your house is okay and you're okay.
There's a lot of...
The fire department arrives, and Clay is still on his computer going, "You don't understand. The Hakuryu will really benefit."
All right, so Midway upgrade, yes, pretty much. It's like the upgrade that pretty much any carrier already uses by default. It is the HP one. Especially on the Midway, considering how your torpedo bombers are tier 8, you want the extra survivability to be able to actually strike targets that are tier 10. Since pretty much any ship at tier 10 has above average AA. It has A that hurts quite a bit. And this is pretty much just a straight upgrade. More 50% more HP for your strike planes, which actually helps you a lot considering how, like, as I said again, what you really want to keep alive are your torpedo bombers. And while you will lose minus 5% to the speed, I don't think that's too much of a nerf, especially considering the Midway itself. Your torpedo bombers are already tier 8. They're slow. Minus 70% will not make that much of a difference. And if you have good fighter control, you can pretty reliably clear the sky of enemy threats on the local area you're trying to go for. And then your strike planes will take care of the rest.
Hold on, you're getting
Plain,
called
one thing I
out.
had heard, though, I think Farazella had said something about one of the upgrades is going to make your dive bombers slow enough that they can be caught by fighters or something. That was one thing I'd heard. Is that true? Or do you know?
I don't really know. I mean, I don't believe that is the case, but generally, because like your dive bombers already get caught by default if they are loaded with their bombs. After you drop them off, they become a lot faster. Unless you're a Hakuryu player, unless you're like a Hakuryu player that uses the speed mod, it's gonna be difficult to catch a dive bomber squadron that has already dropped its payload. And so, perhaps, maybe the torpedo bombers will get caught even after they have dropped their payload, but most of them by default already die if you try to strike a target that's pretty much tier 10.
Cool.
So honestly, I just think the extra survivability for your torpedo bombers will just make it so much more convenient. Honestly.
And you were saying that most of the time you send your torpedo bombers to an area that you've either cleared with fighters or...
Yeah, I generally prefer that generally you already clear the area of local air resistance like fighters, with your own fighters, and then, or during that time, you go and strike with your strike package. So your fighters should already be in the area. You know, if there are enemy fighters in the area, your fighters should already have them engaged or them killed off. And then you move in with your strike package.
So Janasi here is saying that your fighter speed is going to go down and you need that to boost your ability to fight the enemy fighters. What do you think of that?
You need a speed boost at the moment to fight the enemy fighters.
If you read the Twitch chat, That name sounds so familiar. Um, they're saying that you need the speed to fight the enemy fighters right now. I guess
I
I'm not
mean,
a CV
the
player, so it's
Hakuryu
just
fighters are tier 10s, while yours are tier 9. So your fighters are by default slower than the Hakuryus are, without that -5% aircraft cruiser speed debuff.
Especially
And
if the
generally,
Hakuryu is taking
fighters,
its legendary upgrade.
yeah, and generally you just go and muscle your way through an enemy Hakuryu, because the Hakuryu at the moment, a good Hakuryu player on a random battle, for example, should be using the 332 loadout. And if his fighters are together, you're not going to win them, pretty much, unless you're better than the enemy carrier. Because he will have 15 tier 10 fighters, you're going to have 14 tier 9 fighters. That's why you need to use the speed moss, so this is a closer 100%, not 5%. I never really found it to be much of a hindrance. The American planes themselves, you generally play them to brawl and muscle your way into victory by having large squadrons with a lot of planes to be able to just overwhelm the enemy AA and then strike them. The Japanese carriers rely on mobility, agility, and precision. That's why they're very flexible, especially with the lots of squadrons they have. And more HP will just make your planes more healthy, and you're going to be able to endure more AA, especially for your tier 8 planes, as I said beforehand. I never really found speed to be that much of an issue.
yeah. This person's name sounds familiar, so I'm sort of taking it credibly on their counterpoints, and also it's kind of nice to have a counterpoint since none of us play CV. So like the other ships, we can't say, well, what about this scenario that we would play with this style? So they're kind of just saying you would really want the speed to help you.
Yeah, I mean, generally when I go into a flank, you do have a point. Generally, when you strike a flank, when you're in the midway, you want to strike it hard and fast, so the enemy Hakuryu doesn't have enough time to go and round up all his fighter squadrons. Because, as I said previously, the Hakuryu at the moment is better at the midway for sky control because it has more fighters and they have better fighters. However, your fighters are all localized in 2 squadrons, while his are dispatched in 3. So you can do the whole good old strategic tactic of divide and conquer. So yeah, that is kind of a demerit in that point, but I do believe the extra and increase in aircraft durability will be better for that specifically.
Okay, so I guess we won't dwell on that too much. I guess anybody else watching, or who might watch this on YouTube later, to leave a comment if you guys have another counterpoint that you want to bring up. Maybe we can go over this more once it's been tested and played. We actually kind of plan on doing like a, if we're completely wrong on some of these or things end up being different, we might do another one of these to go over the
problem with this entire stream was that we're mostly speculating. We never really played these specific upgrades.
Yeah. So I guess moving
on
on to
I believe, let me just say one real thing.
Go for it.
Jonathan, thank you for your input. I believe that this upgrade will be better for the way that I play, and I believe I will still have continued success with my midway. But I still have to test it out. I could be completely fucking wrong, and I'll eat my own words later. But right now, I believe it's probably a good thing. All right, on the Hakuryu.
Yep.
For randoms, I still would probably go for increased aircraft survivability, because your planes are already fast, and right now your fighters beat the midways. If you have good fighter control, and if you can put your 3 squadrons against his 2, you should win. Honestly, you're more flexible, your fighters are of higher tiers, and you have more of them. So you're going to win against the midway. Now, you have 12 torpedo bombers, and I believe, what was it again? 10? How many dive bombers do you have? I believe, it's 10 dive bombers. And, since they're kind of dispersed into smaller squadrons, that's more squadrons that you can lose planes on individually due to the way that RNG works. Honestly, hey, your aircrafts move a little bit faster, but instead you're going to lose the 15% survivability that you have on your strike package. Your fighters are already healthy as it is. Let me just do a quick look on my
Yeah, well,
Midway.
while he looks at
My-
that, if anybody
my-
who's a CV player watching and has a counterpoint, I mean, bring it up, because, like I said, none of us are CV players, so we can't counterpoint argue with him here, so... And,
All right, so your torpedo bombers, with the upgrade, they have 25,000 HP with these upgrade. Let me remove it right now for a second. So you have 2.5k HP with your torpedo bombers, and it goes down to 2.2. Your fighters, however, also have 2.5k. So basically, with the survivability upgrade that you have right now, the 3 million one, your torpedo bombers are going to be just as healthy as your fighters, and that's great. The Hakuryu's fighters are very healthy, and they can take a lot of damage before they have to go down, and you want that to happen for your torpedo bombers, because comparing this to the Midway especially, your torpedo bombers are your main source of damage. The Midway has its entire damage split between the dive bombers, which have much more HE damage, being 1,000 pounds, and much more AP damage than yours does. Well, they have AP. You don't have anything at all. The Hakuryu's dive bombers only have 500-pound bombs, and their real purpose is to set fires and nothing else. The Hakuryu's main damage source comes from damage over time that you need your torpedo bombers to do anything with anyways, and the torpedo bomber raw damage from the alpha of the torpedoes themselves. So honestly, no. Like, your main source of damage is from your torpedo bombers, and you need them to stay alive. For the Midway, you can argue between using that upgrade or not, but you need this here. You need your torpedo bombers to survive, because they're your only source of damage, not taking into account damage over time, things like fires and floodings. However, in a competitive aspect, especially let's say Kings of the Sea, the Hakuryu on Kings of the Sea is the main carrier of Kings of the Sea, and for a reason. On Kings of the Sea, spotting and control over the skies is king. So any Hakuryu player on Kings of the Sea will use 422s. And since fighter is basic fighters and spotting is king, and you're probably going to be facing another 422 on Kings of the Sea anyways, buffing those said fighters is even better. So on on a competitive setup like Kings of the Sea, or some tournament between clans, anything like that includes carriers, this upgrade will definitely be used. It gives 10% more fighter HP and more speed to make your fighters react to any moves that the enemy might make. It's just great. It's great for
you're
competitive.
saying for competitive, hell yeah, for the Hakuryu?
For competitive Kings of the Sea, hell yeah.
Okay.
However, for a competitive such as, I don't know, if you're trying to get to rank 1 by using a tier 10 carrier, I'd maybe consider just going for the HP one, since you generally need to carry your own weight and also the weight of your allies. You can't really afford to support alone.
And,
but you can decide that.
I guess, too, we didn't really touch on or maybe you said it and I just didn't hear it, but Midway competitive, it basically, I think it could be summed up by just play Hakuryu instead.
Pretty much. And in Midway competitive, I would probably use the standard 15%, because you kind of need your planes to be a bit faster to react to the supposed Hakuryu you were going up against.
Cool. I guess, I don't know, unless anybody has anything else to add, I think that's about all we really had to go
Nope, let me
talking
just
about.
check if the smoke has cleared out of my house. I'll be right back.
Well, I guess, everybody, thanks for watching. Feel free to add questions in our Discord channel or message me on, Twitch, Discord, whatever it may be. We can bring them up and talk about them later. Anybody else have anything they want to add? Nope, cool. Well, thanks for watching, guys. We'll be doing more of these soon, and leave feedback too if you guys want anything different. Maybe even a topic you want us to go over, if you want us to do a different format, anything like that. Just let me know, and we'll be happy to try it out. Cool. See you all later.